Okay, so we should be live at this point. Brilliant. Okay, and the recording will have started. Excellent. Okay. Okay, so we'll get started. So yeah, hello and welcome to our What's New webinar series. As mentioned in previous sessions, we've essentially have this series to cover the latest functionality of the system as part of the latest release. That latest release in this scenario is 24.10.03, release that was deployed last weekend. If you have any queries, please use the Q&A area of Teams, but we'll go through ultimately the functionality that was introduced as part of this release. If you could try and keep any queries that you have relevant to the session, obviously based on the features that are being shown, that would be ideal. This session is being recorded, and subscribers to the What's New series will be sent a copy of the session recording afterwards. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so first and foremost, just covering the basics. Once a release has happened, there will be a notification to advise of a release in the notifications area for the user when they log in. Also, it's from the help file. If you go to the help file on the question mark, top right hand side, there'll be the current release and release notes of the current release, and also a little video summarizing the contents of the release, and a link here for the information. But what we'll effectively be doing in this session is basically going through these release notes and going through the features one at a time in terms of what's changed in this build. So starting with lists and the ability to search over other users' lists. So lists obviously as a function, it's been a system for a while now, and we continue to refine and enhance it based on feedback from users as they're using it day to day. Obviously, the ability to view other users' lists, share your lists with users, and ultimately add records to and from lists is all there at this point. What the point that was raised or requested was from a perspective of being able to search over other people's lists. So the way it will work as standard is within the lists area on the search, you'll see your own lists and any lists that have been shared with you. But if you have now a user group permission enabled, so within admin, there's a section for user group permissions, and within here, under the permissions group of lists, there's a new section that's been added here called search on all lists. So based on that being set to full access, when you are obviously on a search and you've got lists area, the lists area is going to basically be a list of everybody's lists that'll all be in there. So you'll be able to select anyone's lists, and obviously it will run a search as you'd expect based on the contents of those lists. So that was point one, fairly straightforward update and point to go through. Next one along is the new requirement activity report. So you'll see this again within the admin area under reports maintenance. There's a new requirement activity report that's been added to the list of available reports. So you basically select the requirement activity, move it over to here against that user group, and then within the reports area, you'll be able to see that requirement activity report available. And what you see here is obviously that new report. If we click on there, the requirement activity report was basically designed to give an overview on all the activities that have been occurring with relations to requirements from the perspective of seeing it at a user overview level, but also seeing it across the requirements and candidates as well that have been involved. I've got it default, so when it runs, it runs and it brings back data for this week. So I'll just let it run through and bring back some results. And that comes through. Brilliant. Okay. So when you first go into the report, you've obviously got parameters there. You've got the option of current live reports, requirements that have been picked up within a period. So if you're specifically looking to see what's happened with requirements that have just been added to the system within a certain date range, or if you want to see just across the board what activity has happened within a date range, that those options are there. Or if you only are interested in what's currently live as requirements, they're obviously there as well. Obviously, you have periods for today, this week, this month, this year, or a specific date range where you could enter in dates as well, and obviously a user breakdown in terms of different users relating to those requirements. But the overview report, the idea is that the user overview section is supposed to give you a feel for what each user has done. This is my demo system, so my user is the one that has the stats here, but ultimately with any of these stats, you click on that detail and obviously it will drill down to the records, in this case the records that I've long listed, and it will obviously show those there. Shortlisted, click on that, it will show you the records that I've shortlisted, sent, people that I've sent, and obviously different requirements that are associated with those as well, with links to those relevant requirements. That's on a user level, in terms of what a specific user has done in terms of their counts. If we go to requirement overview, this is more about all of the requirements that have been worked, again, based on the parameters. So these are all the requirements that were worked in terms of activity within that date range. And again, in here, it will give a list of all those requirements that are basically associated to this list in some way, and obviously what's been going on with those requirements across the board. Yeah, you can see that they've got a few there with counts there, and again, as before, you click on there, and obviously it will give you the counts in terms of, or give you the detail in terms of what's related to the number that you click on. So click on that. This is records that I've shortlisted and so on. There is also the ability to switch, and I had this on the user overview as well. You've got an ability to switch the display options from record counts, which is obviously what we've got here, to ratios. So if you want to see the ratio of, how many records is this user long listing before they get to shortlisting, and what's the ratio for CVs that are sent in comparison to shortlisting, and what's the interviews, and what's the ratio for sent to actually arranging an interview. Obviously that helps for giving a view there. You can also again have that view as well for the requirements as well. So for each requirement, looking at the ratios that are going on for each requirement and seeing what's happening there. Or you could have the average days, so the amount of days that it's taking to move between one workflow to another, again on this requirement, is advised as well. So sort of give you an overview there. The other helpful thing is obviously the candidate overview. The candidate overview is basically just giving you a complete list of all of the candidates, all of the requirements, and everything that, again, based on the parameters, all of the candidates that have been associated with jobs and worked through within that date range and within those requirements. And obviously you have the full overview there. You have a view of what their candidate source is and also what their applicant source is. So what the specific application source is that was assigned to the candidate when they were linked with that requirement. So you have some ROI analysis with it as well. So that's a useful report, requirement activity. I think we've had some feedback off the back of it as well, and you might see it refine and enhance over the coming sprints, but ultimately that's a new report that's been added there. The next one along is around SMS delivery. So this one will be a little bit harder to actually demonstrate, but ultimately you've got obviously SMS functionality within the system. Some clients will use that functionality, some clients not. But ultimately, when an SMS was sent, it would create an SMS history in the history area. And then you could, for example, if I do an SMS here, it will basically allow you to send an SMS and then see and receive confirmation as to whether or not that SMS was successfully delivered. That's the update that's been made. So obviously we'll send an SMS, for example, SMS, and that will obviously go. But effectively, the history is then monitored from then onwards, looking at that SMS with the API, with the SMS vendor. It will monitor this to check whether or not the SMS was successfully received. If it was received, then that's fine. It will just it will stamp this to acknowledge that it was received. However, if it fails, then it will switch this SMS to an SMS fail, and that basically just will be a clarity to the sender that when they tried to SMS this person, it didn't actually go through. The other thing if we have as well is within global settings, we have a setting around SMS fail. So in the event of an SMS fail, what you can do is have the system automatically change the mail shot status in the event of the SMS failing. So if you want to, if that's set to yes, then when an SMS fail came back, if an SMS obviously failed to go through, it would automatically update the mail shot status area. And what it will basically do is if it was set to SMS only, it would set it to allow none. If it was set to allow all, it would set it to email only. Because ultimately, we're taking out the SMS element to the mail shot status. We don't want SMS obviously to be included in there, because obviously we've tried to SMS and it's failed. So that's the key update that happened there. The next one along is to do with documents. So the ability to upload multiple documents to a record. So previously, when you went to a record and you went to selected documents, I'll delete off some documents because I've got quite a few here. Just delete off a few. Yeah, when you previously went to add a document to a record, and this doesn't have to be a candidate, it could be any record on the system. The upload option would allow you basically to select one file, or if you dragged and dropped, you could select and drag and drop one file onto this area. That's now been updated to allow you to select multiple files. So this can be done in two different ways. One is you click on that to allow it to select, and then you can obviously select multiple files now, and then that will basically put the description of it to be multiple files, because the description will be the description name of the document. Obviously you set a document type as is relevant to the record, and then you upload it, and if you obviously it will then upload all three of the documents all at once. The other scenario is drag and drop. So if we do it the other way, again, let me just delete off these documents. If I do add new, and then if I do it the other way, if I go over to downloads folder here, click that, and then I drag and drop these over here this way. Again, that does the same sort of thing. So you can just drag multiple documents at once into that choose files section, hit upload, and then obviously it'll upload those files to the requirement. But that's the upload function there. The next one along is to do with alert levels. So we've basically updated, alert levels have been in the system for a while, but against candidates, companies and contacts. And this is that ability to put a message across the top of a record, some sort of information, whatever information that may be, and you can be either a default wording to that message, or if you want, it could be a specific bespoke wording. So only call on Wednesday. Whatever message that you want to put up there, speak to this person first before calling this person, whatever kind of alert message you want to put up there, it's possible to obviously set those up. But previously it used to only be possible to do this against candidates, companies and contacts. And what we've done is we've updated, if I go over to a requirement, we've updated the workflow now to basically be available everywhere. So you can do it against a lead, you can do it against a requirement, you can do it against a placement. So when you're on a requirement, for example, right click, you'll see alert level in there. And by default, it's shipped with just requirement alert level 1 or requirement alert level, and then just incremented numbers. But again, you configure your alert levels as you want them to be. Also with the coloring as well, the font coloring, they can all be set. So this is obviously in a requirement, but again, same for leads, same for placements. In terms of setting alert levels, in terms of text, again, if we go into admin and go to the alert settings section, you can click on there, and then within alert settings, you'll have you've got candidates, company, contact, and now you've got requirement. Now you've got lead, now you've got offer or placement. So if you want to put alerts against placements, for example, it's possible to do that, which is obviously quite helpful. I'm just going to check if I've got any questions. No? Okay, great. I'll keep going. Cool. Okay, so the next one along is to do with linking candidates to contacts and vice versa, linking contacts to candidates as well, but not necessarily linking existing records. This is more actually when you're creating a new one. So obviously, if you've got a scenario, let's say we've got this record David Payne in the system, and we effectively he's also a contact at our business as well, and what we want to do is basically create a contact as that business as this person, and then link the two together so the candidate is linked to the contact. So you've had this option for a while where you've got link to contact, and then you could obviously select an existing contact or create a new contact. But we've updated the create contact option now, so that when you click that, it will actually give you options to copy over the information from the candidate into the contact form and the create new contact form. So that allows you to save time with social media links, for example, skills maybe that you've put against the record, or their phone number, details like that can just be, you can hit copy all, hit OK, and then when you go over to the contact form, it would have copied over their social media links. It will copy over their details here, the information that you've obviously got against the record, and then obviously next step is just to find the company they're going to, and you can then register that company. I've got an exact match warning against this record, so I'm just going to put something in here just so that I get that exact match warning away, because I already had that person registered on the system already, so I didn't want to register it again. But yeah, that allows you to kind of register a contact, and then when the contact is registered, obviously he's automatically linked, he or she, sorry, is automatically linked to the contact. So on the candidate record, you've got the candidate that's set up and it's linked to the contact, and on the contact record, obviously you've got the icon either way. So you can at any time right click and where it says link to contact, either go to the contact. If you want to remove it, you can remove it, but otherwise you're just clicking this icon to switch between the two records that obviously now been linked together. But that's the process of obviously creating a new record, and the same functionality exists. If I was to remove link to candidate, if I was to remove the link to our candidate here, so we've just got our contact, and I went to create a new candidate. Again, the same functionality is there. We can click to copy over this info, hit OK, and then it will, as part of the new candidate functionality, obviously it will copy over everything there, ready to go for obviously creating a candidate record. But that's the link functionality there available for the candidate and contact. So the next one along is to do with the password reset process, which isn't something I can really demo, but yeah, effectively the old forgotten password function has been updated now, so that rather than when you click on this, you get before when you clicked on that, you'd get an email with what your new password is, whereas now when you click on that, rather than it kind of instantly resetting your password, it sends you a link, like an encrypted link relevant to your user, to your email, and then you can essentially you can reset your password by clicking on that link, and it takes you to login, and it resets it that way. It's just an enhanced, more secure way of resetting a password. And there were kind of complications that users would experience when they were resetting their password, with emails being blocked as well. Again, the work's been done around that as well, so that the email comes through from the notifications email 365 account rather than being sent from the web service. It's less likely to be blocked by email accounts and being marked as junk and things like that. So that's the update to the the 365, so the password reset function that's been done there. Next one along is wildcard default options. So on all of the selection screens except for the candidates one. The candidates one has exact match and begins with, because the candidates selection lookup uses free text searching as part of searching over the candidates one. That's because the candidates one tends to have a larger data set associated to it, so it's done that way on purpose. But for companies, for contacts, for leads, for requirements, basically when you're doing any searching, you've got this wildcard options thing where you've got ability where it can be begins with, contains, or exact match, and that's the same to be said for when you're doing lookups as well. When you're using these magnifying glasses and you're doing this, the wildcard options come through. And what we've had is clients basically saying, I don't want it to be begins with, which is what it used to be default to. I want it to be contains. So we've got now a default setting in global settings for setting what your wildcard option should be by default. So if I go to global settings again, if I go to here, click on or type in wildcard or top wild in the top right hand side, you've got default wildcard options there, and then you can select what the default is. I suspect a chunk of people will want that to be contains. In fact, I think we've released it as default to contains rather than begins with now. But if you want to do a reset back to begins with, that's where you will go to do that. Back office. This is to do with editing bank details. So effectively, obviously, you can store bank details for a candidate in the system. And these are obviously stored encrypted, and will enable you to store that information securely, and obviously bank details are then associated with placements relevant to the candidate, and also to the company as well, from a limited company perspective or an umbrella company perspective. On company records, you've got a bank details area for storing bank details information. But previously, when you make a placement, the bank detail is effectively copied over from the record, from the candidate or the company into the placement record. And if you then edit the bank details, it wasn't then updating the kind of associated placements to the bank details. So it now gives you that option when you're running that workflow, and when you're, should I say, editing your bank details, it will give you a message there that will say, would you like to apply that update to existing offers and placements relating to the candidate. So obviously if you hit yes there, that will then update those offers and placements with the updated bank details that you have for that candidate now. The next one along is the birthday search. So this is, if I go to the search, this is obviously on the candidate record for those clients that use or run birthday mailers to their candidates. Ultimately, you obviously on a candidate record have a date of birth field, and that's obviously going to advise both the date in terms of when they were born, the month, but also the year. So previously we've not been able to do a birthday search because you're doing a date range and it's looking for the year. But if you search over birthday, this one, rather than the date of birth field, which is obviously a different field entirely, then what it basically will do is it will only search over the day and the month. So you'll be able to select a date here. Let's do, say, June to the 30th there. What that's basically doing is it's searching over from the 1st of June to the 30th, November, sorry. 1st of June to the 30th of November. So that only finds candidates. And then when you look at those candidates, let me just update listing options to cover show date of birth, go back. You can see that the date of birth there is in June, but the years are obviously all different because we're searching over the 1st of June to the 30th of June. Obviously, we want to switch that to be, let's do August, 1st of August to 31st of August. And again, we'll do a fresh search. it's given us all of the candidates with a date of birth where their birthday is going to be in August. And then obviously that just gives you what you need in terms of drilling down, find those candidates, and obviously running whatever happy birthday messaging you want to send out. That's the birthday search. Next one along is around importing records and using a spreadsheet to obviously import records into the system. So this has been in there for a while. Within the admin area, you've got a section for import records. And you can import to create candidates, companies, and contacts. There is a link to go through to select where you can obviously create candidate spreadsheets or contact spreadsheets or company spreadsheets. Obviously, it gives you then the formatting of the spreadsheet that you need in terms of how the data is shown. But what we've added is the ability to include skills now in the formatting. So if I go to an example and go to that, here's an example spreadsheet that I've got. So yeah, effectively these fields are all the same in terms of nationality and that sort of detail, but the extra fields that have been added are the ability to reference their preferred job title, their previous job titles, but also skills. And skills can be added in with using a tilde as the kind of differentiator or the split between skills. So you can list multiple skills in there and then use a tilde between those skills so that it breaks them up. It also uses the skills alias dictionary as well. So it will, if you reference a skill, which isn't actually how it's specifically mentioned in the skills dictionary, but it is linked as a skills alias to that skill, it will find it as well. But yeah, the outcome is obviously you're able to add records into the system and assign skills to them at the same time. So if I demonstrate that, if I go to choose file, I'll go back to where I was, and then if I hit validate record, it scans the file, checks that it's valid. If it's valid, it then processes it, and then I get a confirmation message that in this case one record's been created and 2 skills were imported as part of that. If I then do a search for that reference number, click on that candidate, and obviously I appreciate you do this in bulk, but I'm just showing it from the perspective of a candidate that's been created. Obviously the candidate's been created, the details have been pulled in. If I go to the skills area, those skills are there. If I go to the preferred job title, that's there. The previous job titles are there as well. And those can obviously be pulled in as you need to. So that's the import process that's available there. Next one along is integrations WhatX. So WhatX again is our integration with WhatsApp. It's the third party that we've integrated with to enable that functionality. If you have WhatX installed or you have a WhatX account, you'll be able to get WhatX set up so that you can send and receive and process conversations in WhatsApp via that extension. Also, when you're on a record, you can click on an icon, click on there, and then it will load up obviously a message for you to be able to send, or you can go to the conversation, see the info there. And obviously from a message perspective, even for non-users of WhatX, you can still get a view of the detail that is obviously being held against the record and the conversation that has been had. But updates wise, we updated the ability to link a history to a specific user. So historically, the WhatX histories were specifically linked to just the administrator login. So when you looked at a WhatX message, let me bring up some WhatX messages there. When you looked at a WhatX message, it would basically give you the user as being administrator, as the person that logged it. Whereas now what it will do is it will actually advise the specific user that sent the message. So it's a more enhanced way of obviously seeing that info. We've also had feedback as well with regards to the use of WhatX and the logging and some scenarios where it falls over, and we've obviously refined and enhanced that integration also. So we continue to update and improve the WhatX integration based on feedback, and long may that continue. So those are the updates there with regards to WhatX. Again, if you're interested in WhatX, within the help file under integrations, there's a WhatX user guide, gives you all the information you need, who you need to speak to in terms of the comms guys, pricing associated with it, and the setup that's there. So yeah, if you're interested with WhatX, obviously go to that. Again, it's on the homepage, in the help file integrations, and under where it says WhatX integration, just click there for that user guide, and then it'll take you through how it all works. Next thing along is interviews, and ultimately we've updated the notes area over the past couple of sprints. So in the notes section within admin, under all of the entities, obviously you can see the different notes that you have available. When I'm referring to notes, I'm referring to on a candidate record or company or contact. You've got this notes tab, and obviously you can have up to 10 different note tab options available within here, and you can click through to edit those. But the labeling and how you kind of adjust that and edit that is done within the admin area under the notes section. So you can label that. You can also put in there sort of default wording that might appear in that without, before you even typed anywhere, placeholder text as well. And as I say, you've got this ability to update the labels and define whether or not it's active or not. So obviously this one's not active, so there's only 5 that have been activated on the company record. So on a company, it has 5 notes labels. Same thing on the candidate. Again, it's only got 5 updated there. So if I'm on a candidate record, those are the 5 that have been activated. But what we updated is to include the interview. And in fairness, the interview is really just normally the 4 of notes, candidate feedback, contact feedback, but we updated it to update this area as well. By standard, the 5, 6, 7 through to 10, those will be deactivated. But if you wanted to edit that, you could do, and that obviously all works with the interview feedback workflow as well, and obviously pulling through the notes that you'd expect. Next one along is getting into minor UI tweaks. So this one's more to do with the the target versus activity reports that's available. Ultimately, we've got, and if a client wants to set this up, there's a bit to go through to set it up in terms of setting up the targets and setting up the necessary info. But we've got now a means to be able to specify which histories are actually marked or should be marked as a target, which obviously helps for configuring, and seeing what specific info you do. But the way it would work is that obviously when targets are assigned, it puts a line in the target listing in the chart. It will give a line of where the target is, and then obviously the activity is where it's met that target or not met that target. It makes it quite clear graphically, and that could be in all users, or it can get a specific user, and obviously the different workflows depending on different targets will be obviously listed in the activity drop down. But within the admin area, under lookups and then history codes, against all of the histories now, you'll see this option of allow target, and the system ones, the default ones will be set to yes, and the more obscure ones will be set to no. But allow target is basically defining whether or not that history should be considered as a target. So for clients that want to create obviously custom histories and then target on them, you can now add those histories. You can now put a target there, and then within the target maintenance area, it will call on those histories that have been set, so that you can assign targets against them, rather than how it used to be, which is previously it was a bit more hard coded, whereas now this activity list will be factoring in targets that have been set, or histories that have been set to be targetable. Next one along is around the summary view, click to dial. again, it's a minor update, but it was spotted that the click to dial feature on candidate records works as expected when you're on a candidate. If you click on a number, it will then look to take you off to I'll say no to that, but it will look to take you off to your voice over IP solution and make the outgoing call. What was the case in the summary view is that the same functionality is there in terms of click to dial, but it wouldn't trigger the history pop prompt like it does now. So if you click on here, it will trigger the history prompt as you'd expect. So yeah, it's just a minor update, as I say. So it's but it obviously helps to make sure that all functionality is working as expected. Insight user setting. So if we go to admin and then users, effectively when you're in a user or when you're creating a user, there's this Insight user flag, which is to be used with the Insight user functionality. And when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about the big screen reports that are available with Colleague. It comes at an extra expense, but ultimately it's possible to have big screen displays, which will give you some analysis of what's going on currently, and obviously display bar charts and announcement alerts, and obviously league tables in terms of who's doing what in the system. But obviously this portal, this mechanism, which is connected to on flat screens, is its own portal in its own right, and does it as a user in its own right, and that's enabled within the user record where it says Insight user. This used to be a flag that you could set to yes, and if you do that, it enables the user to only work with that Insight user portal because it's a specific user for that purpose. So what was happening is users were setting that by mistake as to yes, not knowing what that meant, and it was then affecting what their user could do. So we've changed things so that that's now a workflow in the toolbar of the users. You've got enable Insight there, and if you click on that, it will basically say that this user has now been configured to be an Insight user. It gives you a link to the Insight user portal login as well, this area, and yeah, effectively you can enable or disable the Insight user. That just sets that flag to yes or no. So yeah, would recommend obviously leaving it alone if you're not using Insight. It will be default to no and grayed out all the time anyway if you're not using it. But if you are, that's the Insight user section. Copy to clipboard is another option as well that's been added. So on the search, if I create a search of we'll do none records there. So yeah, when you have a search result of users, of people, and you're obviously bulk sending those people, obviously all the email addresses go into the to field, and then when you send it, it splits out those email addresses into individual emails. But we've had the request from clients to be able to basically just get a copy of those emails so they can take them elsewhere. So what you've got is a means now where you can do that if you want to. So off the to option there, you've got a copy to clipboard option. Click on that, and then if you want to, you could go into Outlook. Sorry, let me just put it here. Go to Outlook, and then you could. I'd recommend obviously pasting it into the BCC, but it basically allows you to kind of paste in those those emails if you wanted to, and do it that way if you want to send out an email and use Outlook specifically as part of sending out an email. Obviously we advocate that you use the email form, but users need to be given flexibility to work as they want to work. So that's that copy to clipboard option that's been added there. So the next one along is to do with the portal. So the candidate and contact portal, that's been updated in terms of the UI and also in terms of the ability to enable the candidate to edit their skills if you want to give them the rights to do that. So if I go into my portal login here, just get the PIN number. So yeah, again, for those that haven't seen it, this is the candidate portal. There's also a contact portal. The candidate, if given a login to access this area, based on the privilege that you've given the candidate, will be able to then, if you want to give them the rights to do so, they could edit their profile, update their information if you want. They could upload some documents to their profile. But the new area that's been added is skills. So they've now got an ability to look up skills in the system. The ones that they've allocated are advised as candidate selected, whereas the ones that you as a business have allocated, it says colleague in here because this portal login is it's branded on colleague, but it would say your company and then what your company has selected for the candidate if you want them to see that. But from the candidate's perspective, they can look up skills in your skills dictionary and select, double click and obviously select their skills, or select and hit add or remove. Obviously works in that way as you'd expect, but it will list obviously the skills there, and then from within the system you'd see those skills being added, and it will have in brackets afterwards that it's been added by the candidate, just so it's clear that that's a skill that's been added by the candidate. But that allows obviously a candidate profile, a candidate to self-skill against their profile, and obviously it's just another update that's been made to allow for more options. That being said, appreciate some clients might not want their candidates being able to skill up themselves. So again, it's all configurable in terms of whether or not they have the rights to skill up or not. So on the associated candidate record, under portal details, you've got we're not looking at the record, we're not looking at their skills. So these are kind of yes/no flags that are set, and then effectively based on what you set there, will define when they're on the portal what they can do. But in terms of the UI, obviously it's been modernized more recently to be more reflective of the colleague UI, albeit it's then branded somewhat to suit a client. But what's been added is an ability to it's not so dependent on you using these icons anymore. A row of data, similar to how it works in colleague, a row of data will basically trigger for information to appear as you'd expect. So you click on anywhere, you click on the row, and it selects the info. Like with any of these workflows, ultimately they will now update and show in just a bit more of a refined way, a bit more of an updated way, in reflection of the UI. Mouse overs, selections, clicking there to open up there, just a bit more intuitive for the clients in terms of use. But previously it was very much limited to click this icon if you want to edit the timesheet. Now it's just on selection. But that's the portal, and that again just keeps updating over time, and we'll continue to move forward. There's obviously bug fixes in this release, as there always will be, just things that are being enhanced and updated. I would say that in bug fixes there is restorations of the organization chart, which technically isn't a bug fix, but also is not really an enhancement to return something that previously used to be there. So when we updated the summary dashboard before, as part of doing that when you want a candidate or company, should I say, or a contact, the summary dashboard, when that was introduced, it meant that we lost the organization chart in that process. It's now been added back in, so you've got the organization chart there. You click on that and it'll give you an organization chart for that company record, and also again it's accessible on the contact as well. So that's not necessarily a bug, but not necessarily an enhancement either. Again, it's just restoring that functionality back there. But then there's other things as well, some performance improvements as well that have been made, reporting updates that have been made as well, to obviously refine and improve the product, as we do based on your feedback. So thank you for your feedback as always, and please obviously keep it coming. But yeah, that's the overview in terms of what's new. Those are the points that were covered. I'll just again check whether or not there's any questions from anybody. No, okay, right. In that case, thank you very much for your time, and see you again next time. Thanks a lot.